The process cycle test is particularly a structure test, rather than a design test. It is mainly used to test suitability. The process cycle test is a technique that is primarily aimed at testing the quality characteristic suitability. This is the integration between the administrative organization and the automated information system. For the process cycle test, a very specific type of test basis is required. You need structured information on the required system behavior and the manual procedures. The test basis must contain paths and decision points. The process cycle test focuses on covering variations in processes. Therefore, it uses coverage type paths, test depth level 2. Like with every test design technique, applying the process cycle test consists of 5 generic steps. These steps are 1. Identifying the test situations by applying coverage type paths, test depth level 2. Step 2. Creating logical test cases by combining the test situations into test cases. 3. Making physical test cases for every logical test case. 4. Establishing the starting point. What data need to be present in the database in order to be able to execute the test cases. But there's more to it, as we will see later on. And 5. Setting up the test script. With the process cycle test, a test script usually is unnecessary because of the detailed elaboration of the physical test cases. These 5 steps will be explained in the next slides by means of a simplified example. The example used concerns an order settlement process. Customers, which are restaurant holders, can place an order for one or more products with a supplier of hotel and catering industry products by filling in an order form. This can be an entirely new order or a modification on an existing order. The order settlement process consists of several process steps, from receiving the order to delivering it, that are shown in the procedure diagram on the next slide. Here we see the procedure diagram of the order settlement process. Without going into the various subsequent process steps, we can see that there are 2 people or roles involved in the process, the employee and the head of the department. There is also a possible loop in the process. Step 1 is to identify the test situations. This step consists of 2 sub-steps. First, the procedure diagram or process chart is brought down to its essence, so that only the decision points and paths remain. This step also includes providing both decision points and paths with a unique identification. The second step is to apply coverage type path, test depth level 2. This results in the set of test situations for the process cycle test. In the next 2 slides, these steps are applied to the order settlement example. Here we see the procedure diagram being brought down to its essence. The first step in applying paths, test depth level 2, is to identify the incoming and outgoing paths for each decision point. The next step is to combine every incoming path with every outgoing path. The resulting path combinations are the test situation for path test depth level 2. Step 2 is to create logical test cases. The logical test cases have to cover all of the identified test situations. The first step is to combine the test situations in such a way that every logical test case goes through the procedure from start to end. This results in sequences of numbers. The second step is to convert these numbers into a description of the consecutive actions per test case. The next slide shows the logical test cases in terms of numbers. Creating the logical test cases is basically a matter of selecting the first path combination that starts with the 1. This is combination 1, 2. Then we select the first, so far unused, combination that starts with 2, which is 2, 4, and so on, until we select a path combination that ends with 8 or 9, which leads to the end of the procedure. We proceed doing this until all path combinations have been covered by at least one logical test case. The sequences of numbers from the previous slide that represent the logical test cases have to be translated into the description of consecutive actions for each test case, however, still on a logical level. Here we see the actions for test case 1. Step 3 is to create physical test cases. For every logical test case, concrete data have to be chosen And every test case must be worked out as a scenario in which every user plays a role and in which all actions are grouped and described per user. Test case 1 of the order settlement example is worked out as a physical test case, which is shown here only partially. The starting point consists of more than just the data that are needed in the database. Also, user IDs with the right authorizations may be needed, as well as forms of any kind. So far, working out the logical and physical test cases involved quite a lot of writing things out, which is very labor intensive. Luckily, we usually don't have to write out a test script as well, as every physical test case already describes a full scenario from start to finish. Depending on the required thoroughness of the test, the coverage of the process cycle test can be varied using test depth level 1 for less thoroughness and test depth level 3 or more for more thorough testing.